1, go.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of Full Press Radio. This is December 28th, 2020. With you today is myself, Carl, and Stevie Nick.
Did you notice that I paused there at the start before we started?
I did.
I was thinking if there was a way that I could mess with you. And then I just realized I was quiet for so long, so I just did the normal thing.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I realized that we missed a golden opportunity last week.
What's that?
Because we should have introduced you not as Stevie Nick, but as Saint Nick, as it was our Christmas episode.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's always next year.
You know what? Next year will be way more focused. There'll be less pandemic happening, hopefully. So
yeah, more hockey.
More hockey, less everything else that's happening. But hey, how was your Christmas?
Christmas is great. We had a blast here by ourselves in our home. It was nice. How about you?
Same. Yeah, it was, different, but still good. Lots of, I don't know if I've eaten my 3 proper meals a day in weeks, though. It's been all Christmas baking all the time. Yeah,
it's been like all over the place. But I think I'm down to like 2 actual meals and then just snacking in between.
Yeah. And one of today's actual meals has been replaced with cheese fondue for dinner.
That's what we did on Christmas Eve.
Well, there you go. We meant to, but there was so much other things that we had going on that it just didn't have time for cheese fondue. What's your favorite thing to dip in?
We just did bread. I made a homemade loaf of bread that day, so it was like still warm, and we were dipping that in there.
Nice. I've got that. I've got a rye bread downstairs.
Nice.
And also some farmer sausage.
Nice.
So that way you get some extra protein.
I'm excited for you.
Yeah, someone described it as French queso, which is the most accurate of ways to describe it. So I'm ready, Nick.
How does this queso thing come up only like 4 weeks ago, and now it comes up all the time? We've never talked about it before.
I think it's just an opportunity that I've expressed that now I get to express my love in a new way.
Like I reminded you to talk about it all the time.
I'm grateful for it. I really appreciate it. Well, we are going to be talking lots about hockey. We've got some news that's happened in this last week, some trades, some signings. We'll get to those. We're going to talk about the World Juniors. Those have started up. We're about halfway through the round robin, and we're going to start our division previews this week, starting with what is now called the West Division, apparently. So let's get to that, and let's start with a collection of trades that have happened in the past 48 hours, starting with the Ottawa Senators sending a second-round pick to the Arizona Coyotes for Derek Stepan.
Not one I was expecting to wake up to.
Certainly not. It came across late at night, right? You said you woke up to it. I was still awake. Time zones are fun.
Yep.
And it seems like a trade that they did in the middle of the night so no one would notice.
Here's the thing about Ottawa. They're not contenders. They're not going to be. They're not going to be this year. So I'm not sure what they're thinking, bringing in like peripheral players at this point.
I think Derek Stepan, when he showed up in Arizona, their logic for it was, hey, we've brought in a first line center, and that is no longer the case for Derek Stepan. Right? He's 30 years old. Last year, the deal, and a second round pick just seems incredibly steep for him. I would have said even a third, like a fourth. I saw some places describing and looking at the analytics and saying he actually brings negative value to the team in Arizona last year. So they actually should have received something to pay his salary and to have him on the roster. So it could be, it's a veteran on a roster full of youth, so that's a thing.
Well, I assume that's part of the reason that they brought him in, and he's a fine player. Like, he's not gonna drive this team into the playoffs. That's why I'm not quite sure what they're hoping to get out of him. I also think the second round pick is a very high price for Derek Stepan in a vacuum, but I also think that Ottawa's not really hurting for second round picks.
No. And do you know which team's second round pick it was that they sent?
I believe it was Columbus.
Okay, because it wasn't their own. When I first saw it, I was like, that's going to be a high second round pick next year. So not being their own, that's a little bit better. Still be a mid to high second round pick probably this coming year.
I would think so. I mean, you look at the division that Columbus landed themselves in, they're not a guaranteed playoff team.
No, certainly not. So there we go. So we got Derek Stepan in there. However, the Senators then made a second trade. This one kind of touches on something we were looking at last week. Tampa Bay Lightning. A little bit of a cap crunch.
Little bit?
A lot of it. Now, granted, Nikita Kucherov out for the year, right? And that officially happened. He had hip surgery, officially out for the year. So everything we talked about last week, still true.
Yeah.
Right? However, still needed a little bit more help. So they traded Braydon Coburn and Cedric Paquette and, getting back to it, a 2022 second round pick to Ottawa in exchange for Marian Gaborik and Anders Nilsson. So in Marian Gaborik, though, that is obviously someone, maybe not obvious. It's been a long time since we've seen Marian Gaborik. He is going to be out for the year, long-term IR. So that gives Ottawa that Tampa, that cap flexibility, being able to put him on long-term IR. Also gets them out from the Coburn and Paquette deals, right? Braydon Coburn, not a ton of money, right? 1.7 for one more year. Cedric Paquette, similarly, 1.65, but gets a little bit more space and also lets them put Gaborik on injured reserve so they can sign all the guys that they've now signed.
Yeah, they shed about $3 million, I think, just over $3 million, and they took back Gaborik and Anders Nilsson, who they've also said is out for the year.
Exactly.
So, as it currently stands, the Tampa Bay Lightning have nearly $17 million on their injured reserve,
which lets them fully utilize their long-term IR cap relief.
Yeah.
And they can bring everyone in that they need to. They
are right up against the ceiling of the cap, but they're under. He did it. They did it.
They made space. And everyone is signed on that team, right? This past week, Anthony Cirelli got a 3-year, 4.8 per deal to stay there. And then we talked previously about the Sergachev deal as well. So, great work being done. And what Chernak also signed this offseason, correct?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So we got those three there. And they managed to fit them all in. And Kucherov will be back for the playoffs.
Perfect timing. They already know. He'll be ready for game one. Wherever it is, whoever they're playing, he will be there.
Whatever he needs to do.
And Stamkos apparently will be ready for the start of the season.
Yeah, so they'll have him back, which is great.
It's great for them. Now, what do you think about this trade from Ottawa's perspective? Like, did they do this for the second round pick, or did they do this for these players?
Well, they did it for the pick. Like, they did it because, much like the Stepan deal, Derek Stepan's cap hit is larger than the money. Eugene Melnyk, you can see with all of their moves that they've made, there's like a distinct trend repeatedly of the Senators trading for players who have a higher cap hit than their money value. The Ottawa Senators and Eugene Melnyk have zero interest in paying someone to not be on the roster this year. So getting rid of Marian Gaborik's a win for them. Getting some guys in with short-term deals, right? Only 1 year for each of these guys.
Yep. Low money too.
very low money, right? But I also like getting that second round pick. Great, right? Kind of negates the Derek Stepan pick.
Sure.
Kind of moves it another year down. You don't need 3 picks in one. It is nice to be able to move that down the road a little bit. So I'm fine with that. Yeah, I like this. This is a rare trade where I like it for both teams. I think both teams got what they wanted, and it made them both better.
It works for both of them. I totally agree. I'm still curious about where the Ottawa Senators organization thinks they are in terms of being able to contend, because they seem to be bringing in a lot of like help now pieces. Yeah, but I guess we'll see.
There's a lot of, right, because they brought in Galchenyuk this offseason as well. Dadonov came in this offseason. They have a lot of young talent, and I don't see any room for them to grow and develop.
This is the thing, right? Like, I think Tim Stützle is expected to play this year.
Yeah, from what I understand, yeah.
Right? They've got Brady Tkachuk, obviously, Thomas Chabot, and they've got a pretty deep farm system. So I don't know. Like, they just seem to bring in a lot of complementary players who you use to build around core, but they're not really letting their kind of core settle in my opinion.
Exactly, right? They're not letting them get that time, because if you're not going to win, you might as well get those players into this year, especially with the fact that the AHL season is getting, less and less likely the longer we go, right? So the fact that you aren't going to have that opportunity for them to go to the farm and to develop, you have to find other ways and other opportunities, and they're not developing in your system the way that maybe you want them to if you're sending them to Europe to play or something like that. So I think you want to try to have as much space here as possible for these young guys to get in.
Yeah. So it's an interesting tactic. I guess we'll see where the season takes us. But I don't expect Ottawa to be at the top of the standings.
No. All right. Another move made, and this is one that I think was the last really big piece that we were looking for to sign. Mike Hoffman signed a PTO with the St. Louis Blues. Explain that one.
I think I can explain it, and it makes sense. But I love that Hoffman and the Blues went and just made everyone kind of tilt their head to the side and scratch their chin and say, huh, what about that? But people did figure it out. They put him on a PTO. They probably have a deal in place ready to go. Alex Steen is not playing this year. Actually, I think he's not playing anymore at all. So his cap hit's going to be moved to the LTIR, and that'll free up the space for them to sign Hoffman.
And as well, Tarasenko likely will be starting the year on injured reserve as well.
Oh, is that? I didn't know that.
I believe that's also the case, that he will be there as well. So, so both of them being out will free up that space. And it does, but at the very beginning of it, it seems incredibly shady.
It's cap circumvention. It's just a creative way of doing it. It is shady.
It isn't. But there are ways that you have cap circumvention, right? Like not Chris Tierney. Who is it that signed the super low deal with the Sharks? It'll come to me in a second here. Kevin LeBlanc. He signed like that $1 million deal, and then the next year signed his extension when there was actually more space for him. So, we see that, but this really just delays it till the start of the year. It gets him in there so that they don't have to worry, right? I guess it is circumvention because it lets him get into camp.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Whereas normally he wouldn't.
Exactly.
But there's nothing shady happening here. If you don't like the fact that this is legal, this is exactly the way that the players in the league designed this to be possible. It's just that typically our top players don't do this.
Yeah. But you said it, it's 100% legal. So is Tampa Bay trading for Marian, Gaborik, and Anders Nilsson, fully expecting them never to play a game.
Yeah.
They're working within the confines of how the rules are written, and they're finding creative ways to get around being over the salary cap.
And people have every right to not like it, right? But understand that, like, both of those, right? The fact that Arizona for years brought in injured players so that they could make cap and not put them on long-term IR, right? Like, those are all legal things, and it's just ways that the players are able to make this happen and get their money and still fit in.
I do think that there should be a cap to the long-term injured reserve. I think maybe there is, and it's just so high that we haven't seen a team come close to hitting it yet. I don't love the idea of a team like Tampa just going out and acquiring everything just to stuff it on the injured reserve.
Well, and you have to be able, like, there is a limit to how much you can get in relief from that, right?
Right.
For sure. But I'm okay with it. Like, what is interesting, if anything, as a player, I would be the ones upset about this. Because if you are in that organization and you're looking at that, and then you start to say how much money is being given to these guys who, like, in all honesty, like Steen, right? Like, he said, I'm not playing. Well, they didn't file the paperwork for his retirement because they want to have him on long-term IR. But that money just still comes out of the pot, right? That's not there. So the rest of the players miss out because of that. So I think in some way, teams are very okay with it. I think if the individual player who's being placed on that injured reserve loves it, and I guess you support it because maybe someday that's you. So
I guess so. But I do really like, coming back to St. Louis, I do really like the fit of Mike Hoffman in St. Louis.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's a great signing for him and for them.
I would have loved, no matter where he ended up, I would have liked that signing for them. But losing Steen, Tarasenko not being the player he once was, they need someone with a scoring touch, and he brings that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's no Vladimir Tarasenko, but he's probably the tier below.
But I mean, do we know? I don't even think Vladimir Tarasenko is Vladimir Tarasenko anymore.
It hasn't been for a while,
right? Like, I think that at this point in time, is Hoffman, with what you're expecting to get from Tarasenko, is Hoffman better? It's possible. And he's healthy.
I don't know about that. I mean, yeah, the health is a big one because Tarasenko spends a lot of time rehabbing, it seems.
Right. And then you get him back, and is he 100%? Is he not? There's literally no way. I mean, he knows. But it's been so long since he's been able to play, last year only playing in 10 games, the year before that. But, like, I'm not sold that we're getting the same Tarasenko we would have gotten before.
No, and like we said, we haven't in a while. And so I guess what you get with Hoffman is kind of that stability and that comfort in knowing that one of your top 6 forwards or top whatever 3 or 4 scorers is going to be playing every game.
Yeah, which is what you want. Right.
It's what you want. I like the pairing a lot. I think he'll bring a lot to this team.
Absolutely. All right, let's go. World Juniors have been happening. We're halfway through the round robin. I believe every team now has played 2 games. So we're going to be moving into the second half today. Games are actually getting started. Only 2 games today. So we're going to be getting started later this afternoon. But what are your thoughts on the tournament so far?
Honestly, it's just been nice being able to watch live hockey.
Big time. Absolutely.
Right? Even if I'm not giving it my full attention, just the fact that it's on in the background is nice.
Yeah. So it definitely is nice.
I've watched games like Finland versus Switzerland, which in a normal year I would never have on the TV, but it's just nice to have it on and to hear the commentary, and it's just nice. That's what I'll say. How's the quality of hockey been? I think it's been what you can expect from World Junior Championships.
Yep. I would agree with that.
right? I think
there have been some surprising games. There's been some games that went exactly as planned.
Yeah. I think the Germans are the ones who are really feeling the effects of the pandemic. But everybody else seems, they're just trucking along how they normally would.
Yeah. Well, and so an interesting thing with the Germany, because this came up, right? The schedule that they had playing back-to-back games to start the tournament against Finland and Canada, while only having 9 forwards and 5 defensemen. And this came up of that doesn't seem fair. Turns out Germany they were given the opportunity to adjust their schedule. And they essentially knew, we're going to take the L on Finland and Canada and be ready for the games that we actually have a chance at winning.
Interesting.
Against Slovakia, right? So they're playing Slovakia
tomorrow. Today, yeah.
Today. And then the other team in that division is Switzerland. So they knew, our chance to win a game is Slovakia and Switzerland, not Finland, Canada. So they knew, right? But people got pretty upset when they looked and saw Canada put up a 16-2 score against that German team coming off a back-to-back, significantly under-teamed, right? But what do you think? I understand why Canada put up 16 goals. Do you think that was okay, though?
That's the rule of the tournament. You if the tiebreaker comes down to goals scored, you don't ever want to get to the end of a round robin and the tiebreaker and be tied and have to go to goals scored and you be under by 3 or 4 goals because you went easy on the Germans in game 1 of the tournament.
Right. Now,
go ahead.
I was going to say, so do we think, though, because really Canada's competition in that grouping is Finland, right? So Finland would have to put up a big number. They only beat the Germans by 2 goals the day before. And now that we know, right, they only beat the Swiss by 3. So very unlikely that that's going to come into play unless they put up a giant number against the Slovaks.
Which is, based on what we saw last night in Slovakia versus Canada, is probably not gonna happen.
No.
I don't know. It's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to say. If I'm on that team playing, and never even mind if my brother's on that team or my kid is on that team, score. Do not leave it up to chance. Now, I have no personal attachment to anybody on that team. I turned off the game in the second period. I couldn't watch it anymore. I couldn't. No. It's too much.
No, I also turned it off. And I mean, Canada stopped scoring halfway through the third period. So even for them, they were like, all right, 16, we're good. We're fine.
Yeah.
It is, with that being said, needing that plus minus, the goal differential being that tiebreaker at the end. I'm with you. You need to be able to do that. And also, it is such a short tournament to be able to essentially get a free practice in against actual competition, even if they're not up to the same level as you. To be able to get that in, it's making you better and helping you prepare. If you spend half a game mailing it in and then have to turn around the next day and be ready to play another team, I'm not okay with that. That doesn't prepare you to be ready for the rest of that tournament. So I think you have to, right? In you play 4 games and then you're into the playoffs, you have to be going 100% all the time.
It's a mindset thing too, right? Your brain just has to be full on compete mode.
Yeah. And if you're turning that off, it's not a thing that you can just easily flip a switch and turn it back on.
Yeah.
You get into that mentality and you build that up, and that's what makes you ready. The fact that they got that at the start of the tournament, great.
Yeah.
It sets them up well.
But it does. But then you look at last night's game against the Slovaks, and they struggled. Canada struggled a little bit against them. It was a little touch and go there in the third period.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine if they take the gas off against Germany, they coast a little bit, they relax their minds. Who knows what happens in that game with Slovakia? But the Slovaks really, I thought they played really well last night, and I don't know. It was a little scary for Canada.
Well, and I mean, lots of good goaltending that we've seen this tournament, right? We saw that from the Czechs yesterday as well, shutting out Russia.
That's huge.
Going into that game, everything we talked about last week about the Russian team was true, right? They look good. They are gelled. They know each other well. To be able to come out and shut out that team, huge.
Yeah, it's huge. It almost feels like you won the tournament, which it's how they celebrated.
Yeah, and good on them. I think. I mean, I thought back this week to, and I forget which player it was. Do you remember which Swedish player it was who threw the silver medal into the stands after losing?
He was the Rangers draft pick. Oh my God, his face is in my head. Anyways, it'll come to me.
Yeah. I thought back to that. I'm like, good on the Czechs for celebrating like they won the tournament. Good on Sweden for being upset when you lose. I mean, you're 19 years old playing, for some of these kids, the first like actual competitive games they've played in months.
Yeah.
Celebrate, because who knows the next time you're going to be able to.
Yeah. So it's been a fun tournament so far. The Red Wings prospects look great, if you were wondering.
I was.
We'll see more of them, I think, this afternoon.
Yeah, because Sweden plays Sweden and Austria, the only two teams that have not played. Austria gave up again. We focus on the Canada blowout. U.S. equally blew out Austria, right? 11-0.
Yeah.
That same day, Sweden somehow a 7-1 game was the low scoring one on Saturday. But Sweden and Austria are going to get going, and I expect, because there's 3, potentially 4 Red Wings prospects in that game, I believe.
There's 4.
4. So we can look for some more of that, and probably some big performances today from them.
Yeah, I hope so. They've been fun to watch so far. They look like good players.
Yeah, so New Year's Eve, this round robin wraps up. We'll have that. So tournament gets started, and we'll look towards next week. We'll be looking into what's going to happen in the playoff round and into the final. So now let's take a break. Actually, Nick, we have not done that yet. Let's take a break. And then on the other side, we'll be back. We're going to be previewing the Western Division. All right, welcome back. We are going to be breaking down our Western Division, which I think we all need a little bit of reminder about which teams are in which divisions now. Yeah,
I think we do. Also, it's going to be fun going through these to see all the trades that happened last year.
Right? I forgot
about all those.
Yeah, it's as much of a reminder of what happened in the offseason as the trade deadline last year, because I remember getting back to it for when the season restarted and having zero recollection of some of them. So
yeah. So let's do it.
I want another team. I know we're starting out west, but Chicago Blackhawks, they're in the Central Division, and there was one piece of news that we missed earlier that I think we would. I'd be disappointed if we skipped over it. Carl Soderberg.
Is this breaking news?
Carl Soderberg, no, it's not. Oh. It happened in the last few days. But Carl Soderberg signed with the Chicago Blackhawks.
Well, congratulations to Carl's all over the world.
We all celebrate with him. I mean, it's a $1 million deal, so he's really just barely hanging on.
There's a lot of those flying around. How many? Yeah. Is he the only Carl in the league?
No. I mean, similarly, we had Carl with a K, Alsner, technically still in the league.
Oh, yeah, Carl with a K.
Carl Hagelin. He spells it correctly. He's still in the league. He's with Washington. And I mean, Carl Gunstrom with the Kings. But then if we get creative, we got John Carlson.
Doesn't count.
Brandon Carlo.
Doesn't count.
Carl Gunnarsson. That counts. He's with the Blues.
Yeah, that one counts.
And PK Subban. The K stands for Carl.
Did you just go to like a list of all active NHL players and Control F Carl? Is that how you found all the last names too?
I put a search into Hockey Reference. Yep. But hey,
Great.
There we go. He's not active anymore, but if he was, would Carlo Koliakovo count?
Carlo. No.
Dang it.
You gotta go by Carl.
Okay.
It's a great name, though.
We did do the best Knicks, and we were very strict. We were strict Knicks.
We were very strict about the Knicks. Only those with C's allowed.
So I understand why Carlo doesn't matter.
That's right.
Hey. All right, let's get to the West Division. And let's start by reminding us which teams are even in this division, because it's weird a little bit. It's not what you would expect.
They're all in the west half of the country.
I'm not sure one of them is. So I'm going to pull up a map of America.
Oh, great. Here we go.
And also remind us. So we got Anaheim. They're on the West Coast.
Yes.
Arizona. Colorado. Westish. Los Angeles. San Jose. St. Louis is, I believe they're called Midwest.
Okay.
It's in the name. They're Middle West. And then Vegas, they're also, Nevada's on the west side. The team in question, Minnesota, is Minnesota on the western half of the United States?
You know who's further west than Minnesota? Dallas.
Dallas definitely is.
Dallas is also further west than St. Louis. And I think Colorado is okay. Colorado is further west than Dallas. Why did Dallas end up in the Central and not St. Louis?
I'm not sure about that one.
But
if we look at this map, depending on, I just see Missouri and Minnesota. I'm not sure where.
Well, St. Louis is like on the east end of Missouri, far east.
So I think they're more east than Minnesota is even.
They are, based on this map that I'm looking at, yes.
So they're the most incorrect. Dallas is going to have some struggles. The fact that they put the Florida teams in that Central makes more sense for Dallas. Having Minnesota have to fly all the way down. So that's probably why. The fact that we also have the Florida teams in the Central Division doesn't make sense either, but hey.
No.
We're playing fast and loose with divisions in this pandemic season. Who really cares? But that's what we got. We got those 8 teams. So let's go through. The way we're going to do our previews is we are going to take our format that we did for our summer top 10 list and use it to rank our division. So we're going to start at the bottom and try to collectively rank our divisions all the way from 8 to 1. Unless you're doing the North, then it's only 7 to 1. So Nick, who do you think is going to finish dead last in this division this year?
I don't know. This is hard starting from the bottom, especially in this division, because there's 4 very clear bottom teams. Like I know who's going to be in 8, 7, 6, and 5, but I don't know how to rank them.
I'm actually not sure. I know who's going to be in 6, 7, and 8. 4, and then I know who's going to be in 4 and 5, and then I know who's in 1, 2, and 3.
You going California for the dead last teams?
I'm actually not. I am. So for my bottom 2, 7 and 8 is Anaheim and LA. And I'm not sure which order, and I'm not sure it particularly matters.
I don't think it really does matter. I would put Anaheim below LA, I think.
I would probably pick the same thing. Just because like LA is a couple years ahead on that curve of bringing it back. Anaheim is just really getting into it. This is what I would say their second year of acknowledging where they're at.
Yeah. And even in their first year, they didn't really do anything too like groundbreaking in terms of the next step forward through this thing.
Yeah.
So, I kind of feel like Anaheim's taken a bit of a weighted out approach. But man, they're gonna be rough.
Yeah. Anaheim, really the only big difference in this roster from last year, they added Kevin Shattenkirk in the offseason, which is like...
Oh, they did.
Yeah, they did.
Good for them.
Yeah. So Kevin Shattenkirk wins a cup, and he goes from being bought out to now getting a 3-year deal. So that's nice for him.
Yep.
But I mean, some of these younger guys, we need to start seeing something from, right? Like Troy Terry, Sonny Milano, Sam Steele, Max Jones. Like those are guys we need to see more out of them offensively and becoming a part of this team. So this is really a test to know if this team has the pieces or if they really need to fix things.
Yeah. And it has to start now. For these guys anyways.
Yeah. If they're not performing the way that they are, then the organization knows that they need to start finding a different way. On the other hand, LA, right? They've cleared out most of their older players with their bad deals, right? Dustin Brown, Jeff Carter's still there. Drew Doughty and Anze Kopitar also still there, but like I would say they're not old players on bad deals. They're still
useful. Contributing
members, yeah.
The deals aren't bad yet.
No.
But they will be eventually.
Indeed. I mean, Kopitar's only got 4 more years left.
It's not terrible.
I would say that I would expect his deal, maybe even just that last year, to be regrettable. Drew Doughty, on the other hand. Woof.
Yeah.
Very little pieces. Looking at this team, there's not a lot that stands out to me as new additions. I believe the only one, again, similarly, Oli Matto. Was he on this team last year, or is that a new addition?
I think that's a new addition, and Cap Friendly has a retained salary note. So wherever he came from, Pittsburgh, I'm assuming, has retained some salary.
I think he came via Chicago.
Chicago.
They also have a player with no vowels in his last name, which always brings me joy. Martin Fork?
Oh yeah, Martin Furk.
So he's on this team.
Forgot about him. He didn't even make the Red Wings team, so what does that tell you about this Los Angeles Kings squad?
Yeah. So there we go. So we got that happening. But like some of these younger players, right? Alex Turcotte.
Yeah.
Quinn Byfield.
Yeah.
I would expect Quinn Byfield to not be playing right now, but because of the lack of the delays, similar to some of those guys in the AHL, we might see him and Alex Turcotte making this team and contributing and just giving them some time to develop.
It's funny how things come full circle, Carl. You know who that Swedish player was who threw his medal into the stands? Elias Anderson. You know whose farm system he's in right now? The Los Angeles Kings.
There we go. So he was in a trade of some form.
He was in a trade of some form.
With the Rangers.
Yeah, actually, I haven't looked at the Kings kind of up and coming players yet, but looking at this list, they're not in a bad spot.
No.
You know, I was just going to say I don't recognize any of their defenseman names, but I do. And then they've got Gabe Velarde, who's up on the main squad. So they're not in they're in a good spot, at least to grow over the next few years. But if we're ranking our division for this season, a short 56-game season, I don't like them to be higher than 7.
Yeah, so there we go. We got Ducks at 8, Kings at 7. Who you got for 6?
Arizona. I got Arizona.
Me as well. And this team tried last year. Right? They tried to get better. They traded for Taylor Hall. It didn't work, though.
They should be better than they are every year.
And I'm sick of saying that.
I know.
As when we get to the Islanders division and we're previewing them, like, but I'm in on the Islanders now. And a sneak preview that I am going to say that I expect them to be a little bit worse, but I'm done saying that this team shouldn't be as good as they are because they repeatedly prove it year after year after year. The Coyotes are the exact opposite. Every year I'm like, Coyotes are going to be better this year. They're not going to suck. And then they go out and they perform mediocre. And no one on this roster has shown me that they can do anything other than that. I'm done.
You think it's the heat in Arizona? Just that like dry heat?
Just really
keeps you in a bit of a sedated state.
It is. I mean, it's a very relaxing space to be in. You know, you got the desert there. Arizona, Phoenix is a nice city, but
yeah,
maybe I don't know. Maybe it's the lack of fans. Who knows? I mean, there's going to be fans there this year, though. Maybe even more than usual.
It's that low-hanging fruit.
I know, and I shouldn't.
Let's talk about their goalies.
Darcy Kemper, Antti Ranta.
Because Antti Ranta is a good goalie. He's just not healthy all the time.
Right.
So if he can stay healthy, does that bump them over San Jose on your list?
No.
Me neither.
So.
Me neither.
I mean, Darcy Kemper did well enough last year, too. Like, both of them can do it. I just don't think, like, I look up and down this roster. Like, Clayton Keller peaked real early.
Yeah.
Phil Kessel. Yep. I still like Phil Kessel as a player. Enjoy him, but not really. Nick Schmaltz. Sorry, Schmaltzy.
Great name, though.
love Schmaltz. Like, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, good defenseman, but like none of the players on this team are players that I can see taking them next step. They've kind of have all done their best seasons already, and I don't expect them to take that next step. And they've added really nothing that's going to change that.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start with. Like, what do they need? Like, what would they even need to add? We'll talk about it when we put them in the elimination station in a couple weeks.
Which, we did the math. We get to do, what was it? The first elimination station, January 25th. So
that's 2 full weeks of hockey before we get to eliminate someone.
You better start hot, because if you do not win by the time if there's a winless team, by the time we get to the elimination station, they're going in there, and I don't care who they are.
Easily.
So watch out, 0-7 Montreal Canadiens. You're going in.
There's a few good options this year for a team that's going to go 0-7 to start the year.
Yeah, it could be.
Arizona's one of them.
It's true. All right, so there we go. So I assume you've got San Jose at 6 then.
Yeah, I do.
Or at 5.
8, 7, 6, 5. Yeah, I do. Don't you?
I've got them. It's a toss-up for me between them and Minnesota. Because I don't think, so what happened with San Jose last year was unexpected by a lot of people. So which San Jose do you believe is the real one? Last year's tire fire, or the year before, where they embarrassed the Vegas Golden Knights on the penalty kill?
I think it's the version of the San Jose team that still has Martin Jones as their starting goalie. Like, Martin Jones has never been carry this team type of goalie. He's always the sword that they fall on. I don't know if that's the right expression or not.
Sure, why not?
But to me, especially based on the season that he had last year, I don't know if I could have confidence in Martin Jones as my starting goalie. Would
you have confidence in Devin Dubnyk as your starting goalie?
No, but as a third party observer, I like that they brought in Dubnyk to kind of when Jones really starts slipping, they can slide Dubnyk in.
I mean, just to have that chance to hope that one of them gets hot and ride that hot hand.
Hopefully. But like, this is another team where you look at the names on this roster and you're like, they shouldn't be as bad as they were last year.
Which is why I think that they could be better than Minnesota this year. Like, I think with the rest of this division, right? Like, with LA and Anaheim firmly cemented at the bottom. And I think they would probably win, more than 50% of games against Arizona. I think that they could win more than 50% of games against Arizona, Minnesota. I think that this team could sneak in as that fourth team.
Yeah, you're right. They could, and it is between them and Minnesota.
Because here's the thing, like let's play this game. We're gonna play a game real quick here. Martin Jones or Cam Talbot.
Oh God, I don't want to play this game. Can I take the sixth skater?
Nope. We're not pulling the goalie because that's who Minnesota has in net. They traded away Devin Dubnyk so that they could have Cam Talbot and Alex Stalock in net.
Yeah, that's rough.
Then we go to the blue line. Ryan Suter or Brent Burns?
Brent Burns.
Matt Dumba or Erik Karlsson?
Erik Karlsson.
Jonas Brodin or Marc-Edouard Vlasic?
Probably Vlasic.
Jared Spurgeon or Marc-Edouard Vlasic?
Probably Vlasic.
Okay, so we're now to the fourth defenseman, and your goalie is a wash. So goaltending's a wash, defenseman equal. Let's go up front. Matt Zuccarello or Logan Couture?
Couture.
Marcus Johansson or...
Man, Minnesota sucks.
Hey, so can we put them at 5 then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do not want you to keep reading down that list of names.
That's good. I was going to stop real quick because the next one I was going to get to would have been either Zach Parise or Nick Bonino. So
no, let's not do it. Throw them at 5. Put San Jose at 4.
Welcome to the playoffs, San Jose. You did it. Aren't you glad? Aren't they glad that Dallas somehow got called a Central team and they got Minnesota instead?
Yeah, but I think Minnesota would rather be in this division as well. They have a better chance in this division than the Central.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All they got to do is beat San Jose a couple games.
You just got to, right? But they're playing 9 games against San Jose. Maybe you get those Dubnyk nights, or maybe you get Martin Jones letting in 8.
Yeah. Man, Speaking of this playing all these teams, sorry, before we move on, I feel very excited about getting to know some new teams right now, but I also feel that halfway through the season, I'm just going to be done with it and want to watch other teams.
Probably, but it's only going to be it's quick, right? So you'll
few months, February, March, April, May, 3.5 months.
Yeah. We'll be able to get, and plus you can watch the other divisions, which will be nice.
That is true.
It's also nice for you because, or any fan, right? Especially if you're in the same time zone, you're not having weird time zone games.
Yeah.
It's all local.
I thought about that last week. I won't have to stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning to watch games anymore.
Although I'm going to have a lot of Avalanche games starting at 10 o'clock Eastern time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but at least you'll get to see them win.
When they play in the late games, it should be a win.
They'll be winning.
I'll be able to turn it off in the second period and feel better about it. So let's go to the top of this division. We've got Colorado, St. Louis, and Vegas left. One of these teams has won a Stanley Cup in the last 2 years. 2 of these teams have made the Stanley Cup Finals in the last 3-4 years, and one of them has not.
One of them set a historic low, didn't they, in the last 4 years?
And one of them was historically terrible. So I think that means Colorado's going in at 3, right?
I don't know. Colorado was kind of, these 3 are going to be hard to rank, but Colorado was my dark horse for number 1.
Yeah, I would probably put St. Louis at 3.
I totally agree. St. Louis got worse, I think.
Well, so, I mean, they had big changes this offseason, right? Alex Pietrangelo left now into their division, which they probably didn't expect and see that coming.
Yeah.
That they'd now be playing against him all the time. So he's now with Vegas. They brought in Mike Hoffman, as we talked about. They brought in Torrey Krug as that defensive replacement for Pietrangelo.
Yeah.
They did not bring in any additional goaltending help for Jordan Binnington. They actually, last year, a reminder, Jake Allen in Montreal.
Yeah.
So it's all Binnington all the time. Up front, not a lot changed other than the Alex Steen retirement.
Yeah.
Ryan O'Reilly's their captain.
That's news.
Not sure it's going to win them any more games, but they did it.
Nope.
So I just like you said, this team just got worse, right? They downgraded on defense.
So.
They added Mike Hoffman, which is an upgrade over Steen for sure. But if Tarasenko's still out long term and not knowing when he's going to be back, and Jordan Binnington came back to reality a little bit at the end of last season.
Yeah. Like they did get worse, but they didn't get that much worse. Like they're slightly worse than they were.
Yeah. So I think third, and I would say that they could very easily win this division. I would not be surprised about that. I wouldn't call it an upset by any means, but third seems most likely for them.
Yeah, I agree. Based on what we're seeing on paper right now, they're easily the one that slots in at 3.
So then where are you going with number 1?
I think... Oh, man. Now I look at Vegas' roster, too. They're making me question it all. I think I might be going Vegas for number 1.
I think I am, too. I
forgot about Mark Stone.
Tampa is struggling to fit guys under the salary cap. I have no idea how Vegas has assembled this roster and made it fit under the cap.
I have no idea. I mean, they've heavily invested in their forward group and scoring.
Yeah.
Right? Pietrangelo was a great addition for them on the blue line.
Yep.
Robin Lehner, great addition in net.
Yeah, kept him around this offseason.
Which was great for them. And then, they've still got Stone, Pacioretty, Karlsson, Marchessault, Alex
Riley Smith.
Tuck, Riley Smith. Yeah. And, they're not that much higher over the cap. They're like $1 million over, less than $1 million.
Yeah.
That's easy cap space to clear.
They'll find a way.
It's easy. If Tampa can find a way to bury $17 million, Vegas can find a way to bury 1.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I'm with you. I mean, Colorado did get better this offseason as well, right? They made the Nikita Zadorov trade, sending him to Chicago and getting back Brandon Saad.
Yep.
We will expect Bowen Byram to be on this team as well. So Byram slots into that Zadorov spot on defense.
Yep.
They also brought in Devin Taves on defense.
Yep.
I would say for a team when they were at the low of lows, their defense was the biggest issue with this team. And now I would say they have the deepest D-core in the league.
It's up there for sure. They definitely got better. They're gearing up to make a run for it.
I think what we saw from them last year was proof that this team can do it. So, the addition of Saad, we've got McKinnon, Rantanen, Landeskog, Kadri, Burakovsky stuck around. They extended him this year. That top 6 that they have in Colorado is very solid. And then some good depth scoring that I think some of those players that really can continue to add and have that opportunity to take a step. And I just think I haven't seen it from some of these guys like Tyson Yost. I have very low expectations for him, but his ceiling is higher than my expectations are.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's what's great about this forward group is the bottom six can add production as well. Jonas Donskoy, Nichushkin, like they're not premier players, but they can add some production and take a little bit of that pressure off the top three guys too. And like you said, the D, it's up there as one of the best in the league. My question is on the goaltending.
Yeah. I
don't know, Grubauer, he's shown flashes of being really good and really consistent. I don't know much about this Pavel Francouz guy.
Pavel Francouz?
Francouz.
Let's play everyone's favorite game. Where is Pavel Francouz from?
Pavel is a Russian name, but his last name looks like it's French. Is he from France?
He is Czech.
Oh, I was way off. Not even close. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Grubauer is a bit of a question mark for me. I think the team in front of him is good enough to carry him through it, though.
I think my biggest issue with him is, he's had some untimely injuries. Like he got hurt big time last year, missed the playoffs. Francouz also got hurt in the playoffs. So keeping, especially this year, and we haven't talked about it during this preview yet, but the fact of the amount of times you are going to have to be using your backup goalie this season is going to be huge. Being able to have a 1A, 1B situation is going to be more important this year than ever before. And so I think, they're playing 56 games? I expect you probably want to be able to get 36 out of your number one. 36 and 20 seems like a reasonable split for this coming year. And so having Francouz be able to be there is going to be huge. So I'm with you. I think their goaltending is the weakest part on this team, but I don't distrust them.
Okay. Well, there you have it. So we went from bottom up. We went Anaheim, LA, Arizona, Minnesota, San Jose, St. Louis, Colorado, and number one is Vegas.
So congratulations, Vegas, on your Western Division Championship. See you in the playoffs. There we go. That wraps up our episode. We'll be back next week. We'll be looking at probably our Central Division next week. So we'll be hopping over there, previewing our Central Division, talk some more about this World Junior Hockey Championship. The group stage will be done. We'll be on to the playoff round. Who knows what other news is going to happen this week? Who else will sign an unreasonable PTO, and we'll be able to talk about that. But until next week, head over to thefourthlinepodcast.com. We're doing written previews over there this week as well. So tune in. The group is putting those together, and they are looking great. So tune in there. Go for a read. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, the Full Press Radio app. Wherever you listen to podcasts, we are there for you. Thank you very much for tuning in this week. Until next week.
It's time for us to wrap up another Fourth Line show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go. World Junior Championships are well underway. Go Canada, but don't score so much, eh?